This is Jeff Serber, Operations Chief with the Great Basin Type 1 Team 1 with the Wednesday, August 28th morning briefing, morning update, 0900. For today on the Swan Lake Fire, we're looking at Division Alpha, Romeo, and Papa. They've been unstaffed up until now, but what we're considering with predicted winds in the next 3 or so days out of the southeast, we're going to be taking a good look at that line out there, looking for heat and anything that might be able to get pushed back outside this, especially this area in here, but up in the Romeo Papa area. But just to see that we have things pretty well in hand in the event of a stronger southeast flow. We'll be checking that by air. Over on Charlie, yesterday we made good progress in there again. There's a lot of jackstraw trees and areas in there that just take a lot of manual labor in separating the green material from the burned from unburned, and we have the same complement of crews in there today. They just keep plugging away at that line, but from the highway all the way down to Skilac Lake. It's getting more secure all the time, which for the folks down in Kenai Keys, that should be a little bit more of a relief as time goes by. That gets colder and colder all the time. So we are keeping track of anything that has heat in it right there and jumping on it right away. Over on Echo yesterday, we had a pretty good column of smoke coming off of this area down towards the upper Kenai Lake campground, upper Skilac Lake campground. We use water scoopers in there, good availability of water. We dumped a lot of water right around that campground to try to preserve the improvements in the campground, and built line while we got line in there with dozer. And we plan to burn out from the campground today if necessary to protect all of the infrastructure at that upper Skilac Lake campground. The rest of Division E is looking good. This piece of line in Echo that dropped from the Skilac Lake Loop Road down to the Kenai River is secure with dozer line. It's been mopped up, so we don't see any advancement on that section of line. Moving over into Kilo, we beefed that up with one additional crew working up the hill from the river up into some lighter fuel. They needed some extra assistance. There's been 3 crews in there for probably 5 to 7 days, and we beefed it up with one additional crew today to help them out, continuing to mop up and push that line into some lighter fuel where there's less opportunity for the fire to advance down on the south end of that portion of Division K. We also put into place today a swing shift. They'll come on at 10 a.m., they'll go off at midnight, and they will focus on the Cooper Landing area where they will be working on a contingency fire line right in through here, basically trying to prevent fire from coming into the community of Cooper Landing in the event this fire up on Division Lima wants to come down Juneau Creek to the south. So that's on Kilo. We've got a structure group also in there during the day today. That structure group's been in there for the duration of the time this team's been here. They continue to work on houses for measures to protect those houses when and if fire gets into the community. That includes sprinklers, hose lays, all that manual labor pretty much that has to go into making sure there's water and other line building, contingency line building. So that's what the structure group will continue to do today. We also have the night shift will be out for the entire night. The swing shift, like I said, is from 10 a.m. to midnight. The night shift will be out the entire night. Those consist of 4 engines, mostly in patrol status, and the swing shift has enough people to deal with this contingency line, any line building that has to continue on past the day shift when the day shift comes in. And on Division Lima, we still have folks from the highway going north up the Fuller Lake Trail, kind of trying to deal with this part of the fire and prevent that fire from moving down towards Cooper Landing. At the same time, over on Lima, in the Trout Lake area where this fire breached the trail a couple of nights ago, They are working crews into the south end of that slop over near the trail, and they'll continue to work in there today. They were able, after about 2 p.m. yesterday, they were able to use helicopter support. Before that, it was too smoky to use aircraft after 2 p.m. Until evening last night. 4 to 6 helicopters, depending on the time period, were in use up there, dropping a lot of water on this portion of the fire that we're trying to prevent forward spread both to the east and down to the south into Cooper Landing. So that'll continue today as soon as the air conditions allow. Once the smoke lifts, they'll be hitting that hard with water and support for the crews that are working there on Division Lima. We are also looking in the next couple of days to possibly, for span of control purposes, our Division Lima stretches from the highway all the way up here to north of Juneau Lake. And so we're considering putting a division supervisor and maybe some miscellaneous other folks up in there to monitor this, more than likely by air, this portion of the fire on Papa, and decide what kind of actions need to be taken on these cabins that are upstream from Juneau Lake. So we may split that into actually start staffing the division Papa up in here in the next day or two, just to determine what needs to be done, if anything, to protect those structures in up canyon. And there will be an 1800 briefing community meeting with briefings tonight in Cooper Landing. I think what I understand is that they were encouraging people to watch that meeting online, that may be in Soldotna or other communities, so that they don't need to travel the highway to get over to Cooper Landing and attend the meeting in person. So if we can minimize the traffic on the highway, that would be super beneficial. And that completes the morning update. Thank you.
And Jeff, just a couple questions. Explain a couple terms, if you would, for people who don't know. Slop over and mop up. Okay.
So I probably referred to this as slop over. When fire gets established across a fire line, what we're trying to hold, in this case, a trail, but it's established, but it's not so heavily established that we may be able to get around it. We generally refer to that more as a slop over, because we think we may be able to get around it and contain it, rather than it is technically a portion of the main fire that crossed it, but that terminology has carried on, and we will call it slop over, and we'll try to grab it. If we grab that, then most firefighters understand that term. And then for mop up consists of anything from on a sagebrush grass fire. A lot of the time, it's walking along the edge of the fire, holding the back of your hand near the ground to determine whether there's still heat. You might be within a couple inches of the ground, determining whether there's any heat left there that you need to work on. And mop up can consist of what we call dry mop, where you just dig down in the dirt and you mix any heat, embers and that kind of thing, with dirt only if we don't have water availability. And we continue to monitor to make sure it cools down on its own, or we preferably use water when we have it. So in desert fires, a lot of the time, or areas where you don't have water, you have to dry mop. In areas like Alaska, where water's pretty readily available, we will put in pumps, hose lays, and that, and mix the embers, mix anything that has any heat in it left. We'll mix it with water, dirt, native soil, whatever we can to cool it down, and then we'll come back, hours or days later and recheck those spots to make sure that we got it all, and that it, in Alaska especially, it goes deep into the ground, so you can't see it smoke again, and then several hours or days later you'll go by and it'll be smoking again, and you realize you've missed something. So we work to make sure that all those embers are eventually put out, and we won't walk away until they are, or the weather comes and assists us in putting them out.
And that's just along the fire line itself?
Correct. Yeah, it'll be anywhere from, we'll usually start maybe 50 feet inside the line, then sometimes we advance to 100 feet, but as we secure it and feel that it's secure, so that if wind comes up, it can't travel far enough to get back outside the line, that's when we feel there's sufficient mop up. Obviously on a fire of this size, you can't go interior very far. with the amount of personnel we have. So we have, somewhere around 650 people, I believe, on this fire. And you can imagine with 150,000 acres, you can't get interior very far. So we concentrate our resources on the areas that are threatening communities and have the most potential to get out and expand the fire edge where we don't want it.
All right, beautiful. Thank you.